Group 2 is going at the end.
Yes, hello. My colleagues just sharing the screen. We are very happy to present you today in Machu Picchu, an actually social network. On the next slide, you will see our team consisting out of 8 people. And what Machu Picchu is doing, it's aiming to improve matchmaking for NGOs or humanitarian organizations and people in need. So the idea is to create a data-oriented social network where people can register a profile and add their needs and activities. While on the other hand, organizations can subscribe to that data and people will receive a small payment for their needs. So people get incentivized to provide high quality data on the social network. On the next slide, we'll see that like this, we can make the donation process more targeted and also more transparent and hopefully more efficient, while organizations at the same time can learn from the data. So I hand over to my colleague, Tui.
Yes, thank you. So continuing from what Marlene said, so how does this look a little bit more in detail? So there's a person in need who will post their profiles with the activities and which are all represented as an NFT, so they can still keep the ownership of the data. Then humanitarian or governmental agencies, which we call the helper staff, will be then able to explore the data, and this will help them to fine-tune their aid programs. But in order to look at the data, they would need to make a micropayment to the person in need as an ERC20 token. And the incentive for the person in need is the better the data they provide, the better the payment is. And yeah, for this bootcamp, we just focus on the backend and a simple mobile frontend because the idea is quite complex because it grew over a longer period of time. And the smart contracts were tested and deployed with Hardhat and Remix, and the person in need metadata, so the content was uploaded to IPFS. For the scope of this bootcamp, we focused on these, the plan was to implement these 3 smart contracts. And these 3 smart contracts are recursively owned by each other. So there's a helper staff contract, which is an ERC 721, which means the person in need contract, which is an ERC 1155. And that person in need contract then can mint what the family asset contract, which is like the cattle, the houses, and all the other things which they own. So of course, there's a bigger picture, which we can see below. But I will hand now over to Marco, who will now give you an in-detail look of the technical implementation.
Yes, hi all. I'm just going to show the record of the flow. I mean, how it's working. It is, 6 minutes, so maybe probably I'm going to stop it, but then I will share the material with you, Danny. Just a note, there will be 2 contracts. There's the helper staff contract and the person in need contract. The aim that will be showed at the end, but maybe I'll cut just the showing of the video, is that the helper staff contract is going to own the person in need contract. So we managed to do an interface in the contracts to do this. Let's go ahead with the video. Do you see the screen?
So here we have the 2 contracts, the helper staff contract and the person need contract. The first one is an ERC 721 contract, and the second one is an ERC 1155 contract. Both the contracts are ownable and posable, and both the contracts have been deployed by the first address in the remix list. So this is the owner of both the contracts. It could be, for example, the volunteer address which deployed both the contracts. So in person in need contract, we have different kind of assets, for example, land, house, cow, and what else. Everyone is mapped to a wind. So if we are going to insert here the correspondent integer, and we mentioned, we retrieve the JSON file with the metadata associated to this kind of asset. So for example, here we have the first asset, which is the house, and here there is just a cartoon representation of an house. In the future, more metadata, more properties, and a different kind of image for sure could be added. For example, could be added the location of the house, and so the satellite image of the house. Anyway, so this is the person in need contract mainly, and the helper staff contract. So the helper staff contract, now we have to change the ownership, because we want the helper staff contract to be the owner of the person in need contract. So we are going to copy the address of the helper staff contract, and we are going to transfer the ownership. So in this way here, we transfer the ownership, and so now we can check that the owner of the person in need contract is the helper staff contract. So now we want to mint the NFT representing the person in need, and we want to mint the assets owned and asked by the person in need. So for example, just grab one of the address here in the list. So the second one should be the address of the first person in need, the beneficiary. We are going to mint his NFT. So we are going to retrieve his information. For example, here we have the token ID number 1, which is correspondent to the first person in need. Here we retrieve the metadata associated with the first person in need, and we check here all his data. For example, occupancy, family number, family members, his wallet address. This is important for as the beneficiary address. Here there is just a picture, which is an avatar of this person in need, and that's it. So now we want to mint the asset of the person in need.
Okay, so just not to be ahead, I mean, and not to be so long, in the rest of the video, we are going to mint the assets, the owner, then they ask the assets for the person in need, and then we'll share with you, Danny, all the material. Now pass the ball to David for the mobile app implementation.
Great. Yes, is that everything, Marco? Or okay, here we go.
Yeah, so we built a mobile app that should be interacting with that smart contract. So the mobile app will be used by the helper staff. Here they can mint the NFT for the person in need, and also the tab for the person in that can use also to mint his personal NFT for his family asset. So we couldn't connect the smart contract to the mobile app because we have a limited time. But after the program, we'll continue to work on the mobile app. So I'm going to hand over to Igor to display it, to show how the smart test look like. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, we deployed our smart contracts on Goerli network and verified our smart contracts, and we wrote a hard hat test to check if smart contracts work correctly. Yeah, at first we check like that contract is properly deployed and has the right owner, name, symbol. Yeah. Then we test that main function work correctly for a given beneficiary address. Then we test that beneficiary could not mint the same NFT twice. Yeah, and then we like test in general like mint NFC function. Yeah, and I can show that if we do test, it pass. So everyone, thank you for attention.
Awesome. Great. Yes. Thank you, Project Group 3.
In the end, just a thing, we would like to thank you, Bootcamp, because he shared this idea and this project. So, I mean, he has been our team leader.
Awesome. Great to hear. And yes, whenever you get a chance, if you can send over those materials to myself, we'll make sure to showcase them to everyone online.